So I've been doing some track days on my 2003 Honda RC51, which I love, but it seems like I'm all over the board in regards to what gear I'm going into turns in. So I ordered a HealTech gear indicator to hopefully give me some help with that. I'm going to try to install it real time with the video, so we'll see how it goes. Full disclosure, I'm not a great mechanic, but with this bike I figured I'd learn along the way as I go. So to begin with, I had to order two parts from HealTech. One is the harness and one is the gear indicator itself. So the gear indicator is GPXT. There's the part number. And the harness for my 03 RC51 is GPX-H01, right there. Just a little note about the company. I believe they're in Holland. I live in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. And in 2020, we're dealing with all the shipping delays with COVID-19 and whatnot. It took them less than 2 weeks to get these parts from Holland to my front door. So with that said, let me go ahead and get started. Okay, so you can see that I already removed my fairings, my seat, and my tailpiece. And one of the first instructions from HealTech is to locate the speed sensor. So coming off the back of the gearbox here, this is the speed sensor. Here's the wires. It's actually 3 wires inside this heat shrink. And it comes up just below the seat to this connector here. And I've already taken a Sharpie and written on it speed for my speed sensor. The wires inside it are pink, green, and black. You can see them there. And what HealTech says is to make sure that your bike is in neutral and that with the speed sensor plugged in, if I spin the rear wheel, right, if I just do this, it should register speed on my speedometer. Okay, and now with this sensor unplugged, it should register no speed on the speedometer when I spin the rear wheel. So here's spinning the rear wheel. The next step is to connect the harness in between the speed sensor coupler. So this is what's in the harness packaging. Obviously, I opened this up earlier to take a look at it. This is what's in the bag. You got the harness itself. Right, it's got the male and female connectors to go in line between my existing coupler on the bike. And then this connector is going to go to the gear indicator itself. In the package, it also contains a few zip ties. I'm going to take my time and actually route this as neatly as I can. And then there's also one of these inline wire splicer connector things. So we'll see where that goes in just a minute. Here's my speed sensor coupler that we looked at earlier. I'm just going to connect my harness in line with that. So I'm just going to make sure that they're seated all the way. Okay, looks good. According to HealTech, I should make a connection to my ECU, which in my service manual is actually called the ECM, to the yellow wire with the green stripe. And it's going to be this wire right here. So I'm actually going to peel back a little bit of this electrical tape here, just so I can get at it a little bit easier. And then I'll work on making that connection with the little plastic connector that HealTech included in my package. Okay, so this guy here, there we go. All right, so I'll work on getting that connector ready now. On the other end of this harness, see it comes right out of the connectors here, is actually a black wire with a green stripe on it. And this is what should be inserted into the red wire tap that was included in the kit. that'll connect to this yellow and green wire coming out of my ECM. So we'll see how this goes. I have not had good luck with wire taps in the past. So if we just insert this into the run channel of the wire tap. Okay, there we go. So that's all the way in there. And then close this till it clicks. There we go. So that wire's in that run channel. And then I'll take my black wire with the green stripe, put it in the other side, and you can see as I insert it, that's where it goes. Actually, I'm going to trim a little bit off of that. So, let me get rid of a little bit of that length. Okay. So now I'll insert this into the wire tap and then put the metal U-shaped blade on the wire tap, or into the wire tap, right? Trying to keep the wires where they are. Okay. Insert that. And then the next step is actually to squeeze that with a pair of pliers. Squeeze that metal blade with a pair of pliers to fully seat it. Okay. So I've got it pinched down through both wires that are inserted in that wire tap. And then the next step is just simply to close this door here. And that should be the magic. So one of the final installation steps is just going to be to simply attach the gear indicator to the harness itself. So inside this gear indicator packaging is just some more zip ties in there. And it has some double-sided mounting tape there, right, this guy. And I'm going to mount that up next to my speedometer. And then it's got the gear indicator itself. So all I have to do is hook this connector into the harness. Okay. And then I just need to turn the bike on and we'll see if everything's working. So if all goes well, when I turn the bike on, the instructions from HealTech say that the display should count from 6 to 1 and then the letter L will flash slowly. So let's see what happens. Okay, so far so good, right? It says rotate the wheel. The display should indicate a rolling wheel. So let's bring the camera back here a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to rotate the wheel and we'll see what it shows. There we go. So far so good. Okay, so now that I've got my garage doors open, I think we're going to compete with the sound of the cicadas a little bit, but it's August. That's what we get. To program the gear indicator, HealTech says to make sure that the engine's warmed up completely before starting the procedure so that idle speed is normal. It also says to put the bike up on stands, which I've already done. So when I turn the ignition on and it goes through the countdown and then flashes the letter L, you're supposed to start the bike, let it idle, and then once the RPM signal is received by the module, the letter L starts flashing quicker. And when I see the number 1 flashing, I'm supposed to shift into first gear and then keep it around 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs. And then as that flashes faster, it's learning that position. And then when it shows me the letter N, I'm supposed to go to the next gear and just keep repeating that process. Every time it flashes the letter N, just go to the next gear until I'm in top gear. And then when it finally shows the letter U for update, then we're finished. So let's see what happens here. All right, well, that wasn't all that hateful. So the only thing left to do is put the plastics back on. I'm going to route the wires nice and cleanly and then take it out for a test drive. So I wasn't able to make it out before the rain, but the gear indicator works great. I've mounted it right here next to my speedometer. So I'll just run through a couple of gears while the bike's up on the stands, just so you can see how it works. So it runs through its little self-check there.